of Civilization when there was like 15, 20 different factions.
Right, here we go, shaving off the mow for Movember. Just about time to shave it off, so I'm going to make a little video up. Got a bit of D6 generation in the background if you hear any noise. Here we go, see ya.
I'm downloading it now, so if you lose me, well, okay. What also comes with the game is a nice, just kidding, really pretty sideboard that unfolds. And this is for organizing the market.
I'm going to use Wussy shaving foam. I never use it, but I'm going to use it this time because the beard is a bit long and it's going to hurt.
So you get tons of tokens. And easy to look at, not annoying, you're not constantly craning your neck. Yeah, you know, figure it out at a glance. That's what I mean, yeah. Tons of tokens that cover everything from cities, to buildings, to wonders, to huts, to resources, to great people. All that's covered in crazy tokens that we'll talk to as we go through the game. Lots of different cards.
Gillette Mat 3.
I don't think there's an overwhelming amount of cards in the game. No. The biggest thing on the cards is the tech decks. Each faction, or actually each of the 4 players really, has a technology deck. The decks are identical, except for color coding, so you know the yellow deck goes to the yellow. They're identical. And then you also have 3 culture decks, which are divided up, more about this in a bit. And you get some wonder cards, and there's some government cards, which is used to keep track of what your government's currently set at. So there's not a lot of, it's not really it doesn't feel like a card game very much. No. All right. And finally, there's some unit cards, which keep track of your units, more about those in a bit. And there's some nice reference sheets.
Not too bad actually, I should have maybe put a blade on, but I think we're getting away with it.
And it feels, what you guys think of the components, you look at the whole thing together?
Exactly what you do. Other than the classic.
Might sting a bit when I get to the actual test.
Once you realize that's the way it's got to be.
Right.
Everything was as beautiful as you would expect.
Yep, no exaggeration.
I've got sort of sit out as well. I'm going to leave them the same length, I think, but
with the price point. Yeah, $60 for that game feels good.
So leaving them up a little bit.
Alright, so setup. Now, the first time you play the game, you got to punch all the tokens up, so make sure you block that time out as always. But also, I want to ask you guys this. In the rule book, it says they recommend playing a little learning game. And the learning game, you take out Egypt and Rome.
Oh, useless at this, it usually goes horribly wrong.
You play the game until someone gets to 3 cities, and you don't worry about who the winner is. And that's just to get everybody kind of warmed up and understand the rules. And then you play for real. Do you guys think that's worth doing?
First time through, I think it's totally worth it.
What do you think?
I thought it was brilliant. Whoever figured that out, and I'll tell you why. Because then Craig and I are sitting there learning the game, going, well, we all know this whole game's going to be a waste, so I guess I'll learn. So it takes the pressure off. I'm like, okay, learning game, cool. Right. And at first I was like, no, I don't want to waste an hour. Come on, I'm advanced. I can figure this out. But no, playing the learning game was awesome.
What's nice is the wrong turns you normally make at the beginning of a game, you can avoid the next time you play it. Yep. And it was also kind of fun because in that time period you can try different factions if you want to. And Rafe chose to stay with the same faction, but that's all right. So basically what you do is...
We raised about, I think it was £305 in the end for Movember, so it wasn't bad. There were 3 of us in the team. Me, a guy called Neil, and another guy called Dino, who I haven't even met, to be honest. He's one of Neil's mates. Dino ended up with about a £5. I had to shave his off for a wedding. And Neil got like incredible amount of money, got most of the money. I think I ended up with about £60 I think, which weren't too bad at all. Well, I'm going to have a little wash of the old soap and see what the tash actually looked like. I grew a little beard out for the last week. Right, what was that?
Yeah, so first blush, when you're learning to get these cards, it seems confusing, but they're not.
And then you set up the market board. This is actually the longest part. It's just sorting out bits, so that's why I use my planner to keep everything separate.
Get the old cluster going,
look.
The
cards all get sorted out in a special area, so you
can
all the arches in one area, and
but look at
have any other area, that stuff. The military tech markers
makes me look sad.
Just a quick way players can look and see
I
what
don't
the
know, looking
military tech
sad.
everybody's at.
I'll tell you what though, the Mo, good little talking point, the Mo, but I'll grow one next year. I'm not sad anymore to be shaving this one off. So, right, let's have a little look.
See the first 4 can buy one. And these are things like the Colossus. They'll start with ancient wonders and they work their way up to medieval wonders, and then they work their way to modern wonders, including the City Opera and things like that.
Right, time to go, I'm afraid.
The culture cards divided up into 3 categories in the back. Level 1 culture cards, 2 and 3. And then you go next to the culture track for that. And you're going to put all your culture level markers, 1 for each faction playing, and the 0 level for culture tracks.
This is probably going to hurt. It might be time for the new glade, we'll see how we get on.
This is an interesting little part of game scale here. There's 1 resource token of each type per player in the game. So in a 2-player game, there are only
Start with the old,
3-player and so on. So
the old soul.
Really 4 major resources.
There are other ways to get this. There are.
That's come off really easy.
There's only 1 for each player type
for harvesting.
For harvesting. So those are set up. And then you build the map. And this is interesting.
I think where it's longer, it's a lot softer. And as you said, just came off like butter.
So 2 players is sort of like a little rectangle.
Even with this old stretchy blade.
Triangle. 4 players is a giant
Right,
square.
here we go. Big one.
Tiles down where it says to put them down, and then you shuffle up all the other tiles, put them face down.
Yeah, it's like butter.
So when the game starts, your home tiles are exposed.
Look at that.
You don't know what's in the lane.
Month's worth of growth.
You know what you're going to find when you set out. Very much like a computer game, the clouds everywhere.
We had our last shaves on 1st of November. Technically we meant to shave them off on the 30th of November, but I couldn't do it. I had to keep it for another week. It's now the 7th of December, I think. Oh, it's horrible.
Is any military square card, which represents a piece of military might that goes into your standing forces. Very important because in the game things will happen and say you gain a free unit or you
got a bleeder.
Different things, it's important to understand what the differences are.
It's just a dodgy blade.
All of our stuff, we're going to deploy our starting city into our home tile. There's a nice little marker on our home tile telling us
barely got any blade showing there.
Which is a pretty safe spot, but if you want to get fancy, you can move it to 1 of 4 different places on the starting tile. And you put that in your starting unit, so you pick where your...
Yeah, we've done the seeds.
You got to figure out where you're going to put those. Then you set your dials.
Seeds look all right. Yeah, getting there, I suppose.
What does that mean?
Probably need a bit more easing up, but hey, I'm not Mr. Bane or anything. Just thought it'd be good to keep them while they're there. Keep me cheeks warm. Blooming cold out in a minute. I'm going to feel it tomorrow morning.
So what you do is you look at those, and these things have pictures of different terrain on them, but they also have little icons. And for gathering stuff, all you care about is icons. And there's 1 icon for trade, looks like 2 little arrows. And you look at those and count them all up, and that's what you set your trade dial, the bottom dialing thing, to the starting value. So if you count you have 3 trade symbols, you set your dial to 3. It's that simple. And it's not really as complicated as that. That's set up. It sounds worse than it is.
I think they're pretty much there now.
The market board all set up. Any questions about setup or comments about setup? Did it feel like it took a long time?
No. Well,
no.
I mean, you set it up while I was feeding the baby, so I didn't notice.
Now on to gameplay. This game is surprisingly simple for what it does. But first, before we can start playing, I should say the objectives. So here we go. Ready? There are, I think I said 5.
Soundtrack to this is D6 Generation. Our little podcast coming out of New England in America. And yeah, they review board games, card games, RPGs, computer games. And I think they're going through the new Civilization board game at the minute. Sid Meier's board game. I think that's it for your shave though. Do you reckon? It's going to hurt for a while, I think. A bit of a cream now, I think.
We said there were 2 dials on your civilization piece.
Sinks estate. It's like the Yeti's moulded in it. Big lumps of beer. And moustache falling off.
A player never conquers one other player's capital.
Get a bit of cream on.
That's important. It's any other player's capital.
We'll get this uploaded. Bit of an end of an era. Very short era. This body moisturising cream, but hey, it's not mine, so bit of that on there. Probably do as good a job as anything.
And it sort of means that in the board game too, because you got to be able to hold off the entire board to let somebody out, which is sort of a neat mechanic, and I like to not know player elimination. So how do we get there when we play the game? How do we do that? Let's start. So phase 1, start a turn. phase 1, start a turn phase they call it. And this is great too because each of the phases is clearly named, and then things in the game that have actions say clearly on in the phase they take place in. So you just gotta watch it. So when you see things like start a turn, it says that, you play the start a turn phase. So start a turn. The first player
there you go, clean shaven again.
Someone's got a mark of the sun, player 1. That's important.
Oh well, see you next year. See you later.
So in phase 1, the first thing we normally do